Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope everything is wonderful. It's actually really nice here after a long heat spell. It's still really hot here, but we've had some nice days. So, been working on Keely's headboard. I've got it here with some gray stain on it, and it's pine, so the stain is blotchy, but the stain's even blotchier than I was expecting. And I think part of it, not necessarily blotchier, but it's got these weird streaks in it, and I think that's from me planing. I had to do a decent amount of touch-up on this with a hand plane, and I think that kind of got some of the grain going in weird directions, and I don't want to sand it back out. It is what it is. So, not last week, but 2 weeks ago, we were talking about perseverance, and I was talking about how I had been working on the game engine again, and I've never stopped. I've been working on it a couple months now, and in the past probably 3 weeks, I've lost the excitement for it, like that, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, is gone, but I'm still really intrigued by it, and I'm writing a lot of notes, and it's keeping me thinking throughout the day how I'm going to implement this, how I'm going to implement that, and I'll go in and mess with the code and work on bits and pieces, which is cool. And I talked about at that moment in time that like maybe this is what perseverance is, because I felt like I've never had it before. I've always been that person that I go to learn something, and once I hit the difficult part, then I'm just kind of done with it. Like I don't, that's too much for me. I don't feel like going forward. But this time, with this particular project, I'm still, I still want to finish it. I still want to play the game. I still want to see it through. I want to see if I can create something with this weird little engine I've started. But it's a little bit overwhelming, and development on it has crawled to, I'm just doing little pieces here and there. And the good news is that any project like this is really just 1,000 little pieces. In this particular case, it's probably a couple thousand little pieces, but it's just 1,000 little pieces. And so as long as you're constantly putting little pieces in, something is moving forward. And that's kind of where it's at. The thing is, I think, now that I've kind of paused and looked at it, and, I've had some moments of reflection recently, thinking about where the energy for that project disappeared to. And I think the real answer there is, I think what excited me the most about starting that project was blogging about it, was writing about what I was doing. And the problem that I have now is there's nothing to write about. Like, I guess I could, but the site itself is not going to change until there's a playable game. Like, what is up right now? The fill in the blanks, the character or the room generator and the weapon generator, that's it. That's all you're going to see from this engine until I publish a playable game. And that's a long way away. And I find that it's really difficult to write about because I can't show you anything. There's nothing to show. It was fun to write when I could say, you can go to NoRoguesAllowed.com right now and play with this thing that I just published as I'm talking about it in the article. But now, if I write articles about it, it's just going to be like, I changed this class method to include a descriptor, or like, there's not really any learning going on. There's a little bit that I might write an article on soon about structure and how I'm going to structure the actual game state, because I kind of have to encapsulate all of it into a something. And my plan is to use session, PHP session, and put everything inside of one large array, and that array is the current game state, and that's also like a save file. And with that, I can unpack it and have the entire game at any point in time ready to go. So load a page, this thing gets loaded, it figures everything out, and that's what it is. So I have to do that, and right now it's kind of I'm having questions about object-oriented stuff. Like, I have characters, I call them actors, and so there's NPC actors, non-player characters, there's NPC enemies, and then there's the player character. And they have slightly different things. They're pretty similar, but in most of the methods that work on one work on the other. So, all actors have an attack, and all actors have a defend, and it works equally the same between characters and creatures. The character's defend is slightly different, but now comes the time when I have to figure out, well, the player character has stuff that these other things don't have. The player character has leveling. So the player character will earn experience. The other creatures don't learn experience. NPCs don't get experience. They are. Player characters get experience. So how do I do that? Does the player character itself give itself... Do I use an outside method to say, hey, you gained 20 experience, do something with that? And then the character figures out if that levels it up. The character figures out if it's supposed to do something. Or is that part of an engine where the engine goes, here's how much experience you have, tell me how much you have back, and then I'll do something along the lines of tweaking you? I don't know. I talked to a friend of mine, and he seems to think that the character should just be a container of data, and it really shouldn't act upon itself. I don't mind that, but I don't know if that's the correct way. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that I guess I could write about, but I think the excitement for me was being able to make something new and show it to you. And it's going to be a very long time before I can show you anything based on how much energy I've put into the project over the past 3 weeks, which is very little. It's going to be a very long time before you can actually play this game. So there's nothing to write about. There's nothing to be excited about because it's just the trudge of going through setting up all of these little back-end pieces to make it all work. That being said, I'm still working on it. I'm still carrying around my notebook. I'm still thinking about it constantly, and I still want to finish it. So that's a good thing. I just don't know where that initial drive went. And I've been trying to figure that part out. And I've honestly been thinking about scrapping it and starting from the engine and working my way upwards. Instead of starting from all of the stuff that this engine will use and working my way down, I've been thinking about scrapping all of that and starting with an engine and working my way up. So I don't want to throw it all away. Right now it's pretty cool. It's got some cool stuff going on, and I want to try to make all of that fit into the engine. So maybe I will start working on the engine as its own separate piece and then plug these bits in as I go. I don't know yet. We'll figure that part out when we get there. But it is what it is. I'm not done with it by far. I look at the code every day and I play with it a little bit here and there, and that means a lot because in the past it would have just been, and I'm done. So something will happen. It's just a matter of time. I got the kids tonight, so I'm actually recording this and releasing it since we may or may not have missed an episode recently because we were having too much fun. So thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I will see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is blandishments, and is a noun meaning compliments rendered primarily to influence and gain favor with the person you are praising. The blandishments heaped upon the consultant by his client were not sufficient to persuade him to take a staff position with them. Blandishments, B-L-A-N-D-I-S-H-M-E-N-T-S.